beer friends, welcome back. My name is Tammy. Welcome to my channel. I'm the Brewess, and if you just started following me, then quick intro. I'm a brewer and winemaker in Ontario, Canada. Yeah, that's the basic intro. So what I'm doing is I've been currently studying for my certified cicerone exam for the last 14 months or so. And I'm kind of at the point where I've got a lot of it down, but I need to do some brushing up on my tasting. Because what they do is they're going to ask you questions on the exam about specific beer styles, and they can either give you the name of the beer. They'll say what are the characteristics of an Irish stout, and they want to know the color or the ABV or what else, maybe what style of glass you should use. But then other questions they might ask, they'll say, here's a beer and this is the color and this is the bitterness level, this is the ABV, what style of beer is it? And so I really struggle with those questions. So I've been going through the beers that I know I don't do well with, and it tends to be a lot of the lighter beers because in my mind and on my palate they all kind of blend together. So I'm going through those. I'm doing just one at a time to sort of reinforce what I'm learning, and then also maybe by going over it, like this, and sort of teaching other people, that will help as well. And I'm a former educator, and I love continuing education, so this is like right up my alley. I love talking about beer. So a couple things I'm going to use today. I'm going to use this Prud'homme color wheel, which is really not that great because I only have so many colors. It's kind of limited, but also it just kind of prints however my computer will print. So, it's a start. I've got another wheel from Prud'homme, which is talking about flavors and aromas, and so it'll have things like fruit, herbal, malt, etc. And so it kind of gives you an idea rather than just giving basic descriptors like this beer is sweet. Well, is it sweet like honey? Is it sweet like molasses? Is it sweet like brown sugar, etc.? So this kind of just helps break it down a little bit more. I've got my sheet, my tasting sheet from the WSET, or as I say, WSET, which is the Wine Spirit Education Trust. And this is from their beer course, which I will just throw out that I have not taken. I also just read at the bottom here, you should not reproduce this. So maybe just go into that with, some caution. But this is available online for anyone to look up if you Google it. But I did do the WSET level 1 for wine, and I really liked that they have this type of approach for wine as well. And it really just breaks down, the appearance, the taste, the aroma of the beverage that you're tasting. So for beer, we're looking at the appearance, and it kind of gives you we're looking at the foam, which is when you pour the beer, that's what we call the head. We're looking at the clarity, the color, any aromas or smells that hit you right at the beginning, and then we'll taste it. So we'll go from there. But so today I'm doing another light beer, and it's one that maybe you know and love, or maybe you don't know, but you don't know that you don't know it, and I'll explain why. We are doing today a Czech Pilsner. And if you're looking at the style guidelines from either Brewers Association or the BJCP, which is the Beer Judging Certification Program, they put out their own style guidelines, which is what the Cicerone is based on. They use BJCP. This is not called a Czech Pilsner, it's called a Czech Premium Pale Lager. So those two words are those two phrases are interchangeable if you hear them. This is Czechvar, and if you've seen a can that looks like this, but it says Budvar, that's actually the same beer. So if this was brewed, it's brewed in the Czech Republic, but if it was sold in the Czech Republic, it would be called Budvar. But what happened was, when that name came over to the US, the brewers that were brewing that style of beer, they changed it, or they sort of appropriated that name, which was actually Budweis, and made it Budweiser. And so there's been a long legal battle back and forth of who can use that name. But so basically, if you're getting this beer in North America, it's called Czechvar. If you get it in Czech Republic, it's Budvar. But basically, Czech Pilsner or Czech Premium Pale Lager, there's a few key ingredients that it must have. Obviously, it must be brewed in the Czech Republic. They have a certain style of water. It's a soft water, and so that affects the malt, either as the malt is being, the barley or the grain is being malted, or as it's actually being used in the brewing process. They use Czech Saaz hops or Saaz hops. This can says that they use whole cone, which is interesting because if you've ever seen a hop flower, it's, you know, they can range in size from like kind of small and round to like pretty long and like oval shaped. And basically most brewers use them in pellet form. So the hop has been dried and basically ground up and then like pushed through an extruder to make these little pellets. So this says they're actually using the hop cone, which is just like straight off the plant. What else? And then a certain type of malt, Moravian malt, which is from that area as well. So I know all of that info, but if I was given a question on an exam and it said, here's the color range and the ABV range and notes of this or that, you know, I wouldn't necessarily know if it was Czech Premium Pale Lager or an American lager or even like a Munich Helles. I don't know. They all are very similar to me. So I'm trying to get smarter about this. So what I did was I got myself a pen and paper so that as I'm going, I'll just write down my little notes based on my tasting guide. But then that way, when I get to the end, I'm not trying to remember what my reactions were or what my impressions were, because I tend to forget things pretty quickly. My brain is all over the place, but also once you've been drinking, it just like everything just kind of starts to meld together. So as I mentioned in another video, one thing that's really important about Cicerone and like learning about beer service is glassware. So again, I made note cards and flashcards because I'm a total nerd and I'm trying to study well. So this would be what we call a stemmed Pilsner. And basically this is the kind of glass that you would use for this type of beer. So if we're just tasting and you're just doing like a quick, you know, couple ounces and whatever, you know, you can use whatever you have. It's not a big deal. But, you know, I'm trying to be true to style here. So I actually have a stemmed Pilsner from the Salty Bear brewery in Costa Mesa, California, which is very close to where I grew up. And I went there, I don't know, a few years ago. And it was a really cool spot, really neat vibe. So I bought a glass. So anyway, I've got my glass. I'm gonna open my beer. Something that I also find interesting is that in Canada here, we tend to sell the beer in what we call like the tall boys or the tall cans, which are 473 milliliters. But anything that we get from Europe comes in 500 milliliter cans. So I don't know, I just feel like I'm getting a deal. It's like very exciting. Okay, so here we go. Like right off the bat, this is beautiful, I think. So it's got a really nice head, which is the foam at the top. It's very clear. I actually do get a nice aroma. I feel like when I last did the American lager, there wasn't anything happening. So I would say this, the clarity, it's clear. Hello. the color. So we have some options, and so this is one of those times where you would say like, oh, it's like light gold or yellow. Well, there's different variations of that color, right? And I'm not the artist, that's my husband, but there's, you know, there's different ways to describe that. So I would say this is gold, or even like a light amber. So again, this is brewed using 100% malt, or like barley malts, whereas, and that's where you'll get some of the color from. But when we talked about the American lager, again, there was a lot of rice and maybe some corn, and so that doesn't really have any color or flavor, so that's why those are so much paler. So I'm gonna say that this, what did I say, is gold to light amber. All right. Foam, I would say medium to large, because it was, but also it's actually lasting like quite a while. Something that's interesting too is the beer. So this is considered like the original Pilsner style beer, like that was created in 1842 in Pilsen, in the Czech Republic. But the beer culture there is just like Germany, but like even further beyond Germany. So there's many different ways to pour a beer like this, and you can actually go and take a training course. I have a friend that's doing that very soon, in the next couple of weeks. But they use what is called like a side pull. So maybe you've seen that if you've been in a brewery, where instead of just like a regular tap handle that you pull back and forth, this one kind of like is on the side. And what it does is it restricts the flow of the beer. And you can obviously do it, you know, faster or slower, but basically it'll give you like a pour like this. It could be all foam, which is known as a mliko, which means milk, because it's really creamy and milky. It's basically just all foam. And so there's different levels. And so you can actually go over there and do the training course, and it's like 5 days. And I really wanted to go, and didn't work out, but that's on my to-do list at some point. But so the culture there is very, very like beer centric. Obviously, if we're in the US or even in Canada, that's like not very prevalent in most bars, because it is a special type of tap handle and system. But I feel like if you poured people a glass of foam, they would be really upset that they weren't getting their money's worth. But the whole point is that you're just sort of drinking it like for the flavor, and it's like, you know, you're not there to just kind of like slam it back. It's like you're having this whole like experience with your friends and your family and whatever. So I'm off topic again. But yeah, so now we're at head retention. I would say head retention is pretty good, because I still got a little bit of head there. All right, so let's see. Man, it smells really good. So when we look at aroma intensity, light, medium, pronounced. Here's the tricky part about Cicerone, okay? So you could say it's light, you could say it's medium, you could say it's pronounced, but you could also say it's medium to like medium pronounced, or light to light medium. Like there's like these in-between options. And so that's kind of where I get tripped up sometimes. So I'm gonna say the aroma is medium, because I have to kind of get up close and it's there, but if I'm like a little bit further away, I'm not getting a lot. And then the aroma characteristics, is it from the malt, the grain, the yeast? So the hops that are used in this are, like I said, Czech saws, and those are actually pretty, you're not going to get a lot of like bitterness out of them. They're more floral. So I don't get any hop character right now. It really is just kind of to help balance the malt in the recipe. This is a lager style beer. So we're not really getting any of the yeast flavors because lager yeast is very like clean, and we usually ferment lagers at colder temperatures and then we let it sit for a while. I think it says on here that they let it sit so many times, or they transfer it and rack it so many times, so they basically are just removing the liquid from the layer of yeast at the bottom, and then they keep doing that to sort of like clarify the beer. But basically we don't really get anything from lager yeast. So I would say most of the aroma is actually from the malt. And to me, this is one of those times where I'd say it smells sweet. It smells like honey. Actually, it smells really good. All right, now we get to taste it. So the carbonation, I would say, is medium. The body, I would say the body is medium as well. It's not as light as the American lager, but it's not as heavy as, say, like a barley wine, or like a wee heavy or something like that, where it's like it's kind of like syrupy almost. Like, so I would say it's kind of in the middle, like maybe even medium to medium full body. Alcohol, I'm gonna say medium, because I know that that is what it's supposed to be. Like, I just know that because I know the number. But it's not, you don't get any like the warming sensation from like a high ABV beer. But I also know that it's not low ABV because I've had this beer before. So this one in particular is actually 5%, so that's pretty like standard. Bitterness. So this one's interesting to me, because right as soon as I take a taste of it, I get some bitterness on the back of my tongue, but it doesn't really hang around at all. So I would say medium. And then there's a question about sweetness, which is, we can almost think of that as like the opposite of bitterness. And so I do get sweetness because I do smell it. Again, I would almost say medium again. And it's not surprising because basically it's just medium, medium, medium. Like, it's, you know, like kind of middle of the road with a lot of these parameters. And then we look at the finish. Is it short, long, medium? And basically that's like, once you are drinking it, how long does that linger in your mouth? Like, if it's a sour beer, maybe you're still feeling it like a few minutes from now. Same with an IPA. They're usually more bitter, so you're just like, your mouth just has that kind of like bitter aftertaste. And so basically, I would say the finish is short to medium, because, and I'm writing this down because I'm going to forget. It's like, it's already gone. It's already, in the time that I took to kind of write out that little phrase, it's already sort of gone. Yeah. So let's see if I want to add any other characteristics. So if we're looking at aroma from malt and grain, bread. So I would say maybe even some toasted bread or graham cracker. I would definitely say a little bit of honey. And then if we're talking about hops in terms of aroma and taste, the only thing I'd really go for is maybe some herbaceousness, like hay. And it's kind of weird when you think about it to use these words, because I've obviously never eaten hay, but I know what it smells like. So you could use it in the terms of the aroma of the hay or the taste of the hay. You've tasted hay? Hay, great for you. But I do know that Czech sauce hops are sort of like in that like floral, herbal, herbaceous family. And so I know that I'm not going to be getting any like berry or citrus or pine or things like that. Yeah. I mean, overall, it's pretty solid. Again, I would say that I would drink this over an American lager because it does have a little bit more malt character and body, which gives it that flavor. So I would drink this again. And actually, you know, for 500 mils, I think this cost me, this can size cost me like $2.50. So it's actually, I mean, pretty affordable. For some reason, a lot of our imports from Europe are like under $3. So I would definitely buy this again. So how did I do in terms of my actual written down statistics? Not super awesome right off the bat. So for the malt, you're going to get flavors of bread and bread crust. So that was good. The hops are going to be spicy, floral, or minty. Okay. The perceived bitterness, I said, what did I say? I think I said medium bitter, and it actually is considered to be pronounced, which I'm surprised. So I got that wrong. The color, straw to gold. So I had gold to light amber. So I was like maybe a shade too dark. So it was actually a little bit lighter than what I thought. The glass, we use this is the footed Pils or traditional Pilsner glass. The ABV is considered low to normal. So if it's 4.2 to 5.8, that's the range for a Czech Premium Pale Lager. So this one's at 5, so it's right kind of in the middle of that range. The body was medium to medium full. And I think I said medium, so that's exciting. Got that right. I didn't write down the carb on here, but I do know they are usually a little bit higher carbonated, so I'm feeling comfortable with saying medium. If you're at the liquor store, you might find the Czechvar or the Budvar, but of course a lot of people know Pilsner Urquell. Still not 100% sure how to say that because I've heard a lot of different pronunciations and I've never been there, so I want to know how they say it. So I don't know, I would say I'm okay with this one, but I would have to try it another few times. Or maybe what I could do is have something set up where I've got the descriptions like this. So this is what it looks like. It'll say pronounced, and then that's like your bitterness. So IBU is International Bittering Unit, so 30 to 45. Most IPAs probably start at 50. American lager or light lager are going to be like 10. So that's what pronounced means, which to me, like 30 to 45 seems low, but it's pronounced. The color, so 3.5 to 6 SRM, which is standard something, and I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but it talks about the color. The ABV, which is alcohol by volume, and then the glassware, etc. So maybe if I had this like set out and I didn't have the sample beers, and I had to match it with a beer that I'm tasting, I might be able to do that. But it's just looking at these numbers written on an exam, a timed exam, and having to try and figure out or remember, okay, there's a lot of light beers, so which one is it? So that's when sometimes they give characteristics like toast or bread crust, and then they give the hop characteristics. That helps too, because it's sort of, you know, that if it's a German hop, it's got certain characteristics. If it's a Czech hop, it's got certain characteristics. If it's American, it's something else. So if it tells you like, you know, piney or citrusy, okay, I know it's American. So that kind of helps too. There is a point when you get higher up in the Cicerone where you're not going to have as much information even as that, or they'll just ask you, they'll give you the style of beer and they'll say, you know, what are the stats, and you just have to know. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. All right, I've been chatting a lot. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm sort of a one-take pony kind of gal, so I just sort of do it, and that's that. But yeah, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this. I definitely have not had this style of beer in quite a while, so this was a nice little change. I'm glad I had the appropriate glassware, because you might notice I have lots of glasses, and at some point in your life, if you're a beer enthusiast, you end up with a lot of glasses, and I shockingly have pretty much every style that I would need to be true to style, so that was exciting. Yeah, well, thanks for joining me. If you want me to do a specific beer that you're interested in learning more about, please let me know. Please feel free to share this if you thought it was interesting, you just thought I was being rambling and ridiculous and you want to share it with your friends, great. Or if you just like beer and you want to subscribe, that would be great too. So thank you for joining me. Cheers.